Hey folks, welcome to Horsemanship 101 again. Today I want to talk about, well, three things kind of all go together is farriers, trimmers, and horse owners, and how they all fit together and they all have a part in things. I want to talk a lot about, not the hoof so much itself, but, farriers, trimmers, and your responsibility as an owner. Now, one of the things that I did long before I ever bought my first horse is I actually spent hundreds of hours, researching the physics and the mechanics and anatomy of the hoof because I thought it was kind of important. And there's an old saying, no hoof, no horse. And if you actually take the time to learn a bit about them, there's a lot to know. I do my own trims for one of the reasons is I like to be able to see exactly what's going on with the hoof. And I also figure I owe it to the horse to be able to look after it in the event that I can't get a hold of a farrier trimmer, because although I have met several guys that are really good, they do have, first off, one of the problems is in this area is sparse population density. It's hard to find one that's nearby. It's also really hard to find one that's good, and they do have, I haven't had a big problem with them, but I know I've heard hundreds of stories from other people that, farriers just seem to have this propensity to be, they're not very reliable or punctual, unfortunately. It seems to be the problem that a lot of people have, and it doesn't seem to matter where you are. That seems to be a common theme amongst people that do hoof trimming, and I'm not sure why, but anyhow. Okay, so I do my own because I got my own reasons for doing it, but don't kid yourself. Farriers earn their money, and for the amount of money they get paid to do it, don't whine about it because they're risking their life. Because if they get into a horse that they don't know, and one kick can kill you. And it happens lots, and you can talk to just about any farrier or trimmer, and they'll tell you the same thing, that at some point in their career they have been kicked, bitten, stepped on, knocked over. All kinds of things have happened. They basically risk their life every time they trim a horse, so the $30 to $45 they charge, it's not much considering they're risking their life to do it. So quit whining about how much it costs. They earn their money. Now, I want to talk about the differences between farriers and trimmers. Is some people don't like the term farrier because they figure that just because somebody calls themselves a farrier, the first thing they're going to want to do is nail shoes onto the hoof, and that's not necessarily the case. In this area, there's actually no certification you can get anywhere in this province for barefoot trimming, so you can't give yourself credibility by calling yourself one. So a lot of people don't even use the title. A lot of people use it. They call themselves farriers because they can actually get accreditation for that, and they have a certificate that says they are. They still actually have to go to a province for that training too. And not only that, but a lot of them, I don't know if they do it for the knowledge, they do it for whatever reason, but all of the farriers that I have known keep their own horses barefoot. They don't promote shoes. They only do it on request, and they're actually fairly good barefoot trimmers too. So just because somebody calls themselves a farrier, don't run the other way if you're a proponent of barefoot. I am. I don't use shoes on any of my horses, never have, never will. I think there's lots of really good reasons to keep the horse barefoot. But that's not what this discussion is about. So I just want to talk about, don't be confused by the title that they use. If they call themselves a farrier, it doesn't mean they don't do a good barefoot trim. On the other hand, because they call themselves a barefoot trimmer, doesn't necessarily mean they know what they're doing either, because anybody can call themselves that. There's no certification for it around here. There is in some other places. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean they know what they're doing. Same thing with a farrier. They're good and bad, and that was one of the things I want to talk about too, is the recent conversation that came up. Some people were complaining about a particular farrier and the methods that they use, and I've personally witnessed some very bad methods and one of the worst things that you can allow a farrier to do is ever hit your animal with any of the tools they use, because then the horse immediately decides it doesn't like, if it sees you coming with a nippers or rasp, or anybody for that matter, it's going to want to go the other way because it's had a bad experience with that, and it thinks they're going to get hit with them. And I'll tell you, if anybody ever hit my horse with one of them, I'd probably grab it from them and hit them. So if you have a farrier, remember one thing, whether it's a farrier trimmer, I don't care what you call them, but they're working for you. You're paying the bill. They work for you. It's up to them to do what you ask them to do, how you ask it to do it. If they don't trim according to your desires, and I'm not even going to say what I think is good or bad trimming, but because everybody's got their own personal taste. But if they don't do it exactly to your request, or if they mistreat your animal in any way, don't even wait for them to finish the job. Kick them off your property, send them on their way packing in a hurry. You don't necessarily have to be mean, although the temptation is always there. But, don't put up with crap. Don't put up with bad work. Don't put up with your animals being mistreated. You're paying the bill. You're the employer. They're working for you, and you're entitled to fire them on the spot. Simple as that. Okay, so I've heard all kinds of horror stories, mistreatment, and I know that if a guy's worth his salt as a horseman, that some are a little more aggressive than others. I had one guy that worked for me before I started doing my own trims, or even actually after. If I had a particularly difficult one, he actually liked to challenge, and he did a really good job. He was a little bit harsher with the horse than I would have been. However, that said, he didn't abuse them, and he did a good job. He got it done in a hurry, and his price was quite reasonable. So, okay, that's the obligations of the farriers trimmers. Now that's the horse owners, your obligation, because like I said, those guys don't get paid very much to risk their life, so they shouldn't have to put up with crap, and I think far too many of them actually do put up with more than they should. If your horse isn't well behaved, they have no obligation to deal with it. One guy I knew, he used to say, I'm a farrier, I'm not a trainer. Although he did train his own horses, he could do the job. That wasn't his job. And he said, simple, I'm not a trainer, I'm a farrier. It's up to the owner to train the horse to behave so that I can trim it. And this is what I'm talking about, is it's up to you, the owner, to train your horse to be good with its feet so that when the farrier does show up, all they got to do is walk up to the horse, pick up the foot, and there it is. It's ready to go. And you don't have a horse that's going to bite, kick, pull away, or anything else. And that's your job. That's not the farrier's job. The farrier's job is not to put up with an ill-mannered horse or a dangerous horse. It's up to you to make your horse safe for the farrier, okay? So have a little mutual respect. Care about your farrier. They don't get paid near enough to risk their life, and I certainly think that far too many of them actually do it. And I really, honestly, I think that a lot more of them should learn to say no. And that's my personal opinion. I won't trim other people's horses. I do my own, and I have done a few others, and just honestly, it's not worth it, because other people don't train their horses the same way I do. They aren't necessarily as good with their feet as mine, and if I get into a horse that I actually don't even know at all, I have no idea what I'm getting into, and I might just reach down, touch their foot, and get kicked instantly before I even get started. I've been stepped on, I've had hooves pulled away, I've had a few things happen that were just annoying more than anything, and it was all avoidable, and it didn't need to happen. So, okay, if your farrier doesn't do the job he's supposed to be doing, doesn't treat your animal the way he should, fire him, get rid of him. You don't have to put up with that, but you do have an obligation as a horse owner to make sure that your horse is trained properly, so that the farrier doesn't have to risk his life every time he comes out to trim. Okay, folks? And one of the other things about, if you educate yourself about the hoof, the anatomy of it, and the physics of it, and everything else, it's in the best interest of your animal, because first off, you can tell whether or not your farrier or trimmer is doing a good job, and secondly, there's actually a lot that can be learned from the hoof if you actually learn how to read one. And this is not like a psychic reading or anything weird like that. It's actually, this hoof wall here grows it takes about a year for it to grow, the whole thing. And it's a 1-year diary of your horse. It shows traumatic experiences, changes in diet, and there's a lot of things you can look at, indicators of nutritional issues, all sorts of stuff. An awful lot can be told about the horse's health in general by looking at the hoof. So if you learn a little bit about it, even if you don't do your own trims, which is okay, I don't blame you. It's well worth the money to spend on a farrier. But even if you don't do your own trims, it's still worthwhile to learn about the hoof and its anatomy for the benefit of the horse, because like I said, firstly, you know whether or not your farrier is doing a good job, and secondly, you can learn a lot about your horse and keep an eye on your horse and monitor its condition simply by looking at the hoof. So it's really important knowledge to have, even if you don't actually use it for anything other than that. Okay?